Hello, and welcome to the fourth video, number 22D, in this sub-series on strategies used by the Jesuit Vatican Shadow Empire to take control of all world systems, enabling them to conquer the world. In the last three videos, I explained how the Jesuit military order uses infiltration, coercion, propaganda, and psyops in order to subvert individuals and groups, influencing the private and public mind with deceptive narratives. In this video, I'll explain what happens when criminals can't get compliance and control using less forceful means on their targets. They resort to violence and bloodshed. The Jesuit Fourth Bloody Oath of Induction reminds the initiate, and I quote, "You have been taught to plant insidiously the seeds of jealousy and hatred between communities, provinces, states that were at peace, and to incite them to deeds of blood, involving them in war with each other, and to create revolutions and civil wars in countries that were independent and prosperous, cultivating the arts and the sciences and enjoying the blessings of peace." Unquote. This is what the Jesuits do. They incite groups against each other to deeds of blood through revolution, civil war, and they destroy countries and then rebuild them under their control in their image. That's what the Jesuits have been doing for 500 years. You see, all Jesuits are trained to divide and incite violent revolution. They are the revolutionaries because Satan is the original revolutionary. He revolted against God and was cast out of heaven. And he's incited the Jesuits to incite revolution all over the earth. So when you see a revolution, whether it's the French Revolution, the American Revolution, the Russian Revolution, these revolutions are caused by the sons of Satan, and that is the Jesuit order. The list of revolutions, wars, and genocides that the Jesuits have fomented over the last 500 years is staggering. They have been busy undercover on every continent. As I stated in previous videos, this is not a pious, religious, priestly order, but a company of malevolent, mind-controlled lackeys trained in methods of violent subversion. Causing social intrigue, dissension, and anger for the purpose of uprisings against independent governments resulted in the Jesuit order being ejected 83 times from cities and nations since their inception in 1540. When the Jesuits create revolution and chaos, they use proxies to do the dirty work for them. They stay in the shadows. They get other people to do the dirty work. They are cowards. They are the ultimate cowards, standing in the shadows and waiting until the killing is done. Think about how malevolent and wicked these people are. Then they swoop in and take control of all parties and install their dictator, their strongman, after the warring factions have been fragmented and weakened by violence and are unable to resist. The Jesuits hate popular governments and Christians because they can't control them. The 20th century saw Rome wage war everywhere against popular nationalist governments. Go to Wikipedia and see how many countries were invaded by the United States. This is the proxy that the Jesuits used. They used their American military to invade many states and interfere and meddle and create coup d'etat and bring down independent popular governments for the purpose of installing dictators loyal to Rome. The Jesuits used their American military sword to do the dirty work of fomenting insurgency, creating guerrilla militias, and brutalizing unwitting civilian populations. They always financed both sides in any major conflict, profiting doubly from arms sales to each party and then raping countries afterwards of their resource wealth under Roman Catholic or Masonic dictators faithful to the Roman cult. These men, no shame. They rape and pillage their own countries for Masonic businesses for the benefit of the Roman cult, the Vatican. The Jesuits achieved much through armed conflict. By turning formerly peaceful neighbors into enemies, they profit from the sale of weapons as they build up armed forces. Hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars are spent on weapons. For what? For the profit of the Jesuit order. The Jesuits own the huge multinational military weapons corporations, keeping nations in a constant state of suspicion and agitation enables the Jesuits also to control the brokering of peace deals through their United Nations. They want to control it all. The Jesuits put their UN troops on the ground in conflict zones, and most people do not realize these are actually Roman occupation forces. They've been occupied. It's nothing to do with peacekeeping. That is a lie. The UN troops do not stop conflict. Their purpose is to aid and extend it. A classic example of Jesuit-assisted civil war and ethnic genocide is Rwanda, which through Jesuit instigation descended into bloody tribal conflict in 1994. For 100 days, while the UN peacekeepers passively looked and the world turned away and did nothing, by papal order, the Jesuit proxy Hutu, undeterred, that militia slaughtered close to 1 million Tutsis in cold blood. Nearly 1 million people. And nobody stepped in to lend a hand. None. So horrible. It was so bad that the big rivers in Rwanda stopped flowing because of the thousands of bodies, hundreds of thousands of bodies, dumped in those rivers, creating a massive jam. Many of the victims were Protestant Christians. No effort was made for 100 days, more than 3 months, to stop the killers. Why? Simply because the Jesuits wanted the traditional Tutsi rulers out of the way, enabling them to re-engineer the Rwandan demographic politically and spiritually in their image. Who did the killing? Why, vicious, bloodthirsty Roman Catholic priests, nuns, and clerics. This is 100% true. Fanatical Catholics killed for the Pope when ordered to do so. Christians cannot do that. Cannot. The Catholic Church in Rwanda and Pope Francis have publicly admitted and apologized for the killings, but make no mistake, the Jesuits were the architects and the murderous rampage was pre-planned and intentional. This horrible slaughter has the same vicious Jesuitical trademark as the Armenian, Russian, Chinese, Cambodian, Ugandan, Ukrainian, German, and Bangladeshi mass killings, to name just a few. The list is huge. Today, Surprise, surprise, a majority of 57% of Rwandans, according to statistics, are Roman Catholic. Rwanda is in fact just another papal state set up by the Jesuits through violent conflict in their Kingdom of Africa. As usual, the Jesuits kept their public hands clean, but there is blood, rivers of blood all over them. In this short space, I cannot possibly list the violent campaigns waged against so many tribes and nations. It is the Jesuits' endless war to socially and spiritually mold and shape the peoples of the world into the Luciferian mindset in preparing all to accept and worship the image of the beast. In this present post-World War II period, the Jesuits are busy consolidating their gains after bloodying the world with their deadly World War I right and then World War II left hooks. Bam, bam. Knocked the world out. That left people everywhere crying for peace, just as the Jesuits intended, and which then gave birth to their Roman United Nations, one world government. It's the Hegelian dialectic. Create the problem, get a reaction, and then provide the solution. The Jesuits have usurped total temporal and spiritual control over all nations during the last 60 years using their New World Order UN government without people even being aware of it. Look for war, and there you'll see the Jesuits in action, guaranteed. They'll be using proxies, like ISIS, to do the killing as usual. The new proxies being groomed right now are Russia and China, preparing to invade and crush all opposition once the American sword is destroyed. They did it to Germany, Italy, and Japan. So folks, don't be surprised when it happens to America. The Jesuits will destroy America and then will destroy the Vatican. The Bible declares it, and it will come to pass. Finally, the aim of any war can be ascertained with a bit of analysis by asking the perennial question, cui bono? Or who benefits, politically and spiritually, from this event? Close examination will reveal the Roman Catholic whore system waging war in order to bring all human souls into subjection to her and the Antichrist world dictator that will soon be revealed. That's what this is all about. The final and total temporal and spiritual enslavement of humanity. Make no mistake about it. Satan is the god of war and death, and the Jesuits are his minions, ensuring that war never ceases, so the flow of human blood never ceases. Satan demands blood, sacrifice, continuously. He revels in death. He's the god of death and rejoices in the mass destruction of mankind. The only way Satan can take revenge against God is by deceiving and killing people who are made in the image of God. Near the end of this murderous rampage, there will be a short false peace for mankind fashioned on the Antichrist's brutal terms. His terms? Total submission and worship of Satan's ruler, or death. That's when you'll have to make your choice, people. It's coming. People, the 4 strategies the Jesuits have used for deceiving and forcing humanity into compliance have done their job well. This will not stop until the end of the age, when the return of Jesus Christ will bring everything as we know it to a close. End of time. My question to you, the viewer, is always the same. Whose side are you on? God's or Satan's? Jesus Christ said, "If you are not for me, then you are against me." There is no middle ground. That means you have made yourself his enemy by not serving God. God is commanding. This is not a request. God is commanding all men to repent of their sins everywhere, to turn and begin to serve God and be born again. Now is the time of God's mercy. When Jesus Christ returns, it will be in flaming fire with the angels of heaven, taking horrible vengeance on his enemies. And he has the right to do so. He is God and he is the creator. This is his creation. And you, me, we all belong to him. He's the owner and he can do what he wants. I would suggest getting on his side. He will triumph ultimately. It will be a terrifying time for those who have rejected God and his commandments. God is merciful. He loves you and will forgive you and save you if you ask him to and you mean it from your heart. Please consider what I'm saying carefully. Thank you for listening, and may God bless you in your search for the truth. I hope to see you in the next video.